The humming started low. It was a tremor in the deck plates. We felt it in our teeth before we ever heard it. For 70 years, the gate had been silent, a monument to a forgotten race, a big, useless ring in the middle of nowhere. Now it was singing. The song vibrated through our ship. It shook loose a century of dust and assumptions. Every sensor on the bridge screamed at us. They all gave a different reason for the noise: gravitational distortion, exotic particle emissions, the ship's cook swearing he left the sonic oven on. We ignored most of them. A voice crackled over the comms. It was faint, a whisper buried in static. The signal was ancient, degraded. It looped the same phrase in a long, dead dialect. A warning. But the words were unclear, lost to time and interference. It was probably just an old proximity alarm. We decided to move closer anyway. We had to know. That was our first mistake. We were about to make so many more. The gate's aperture shimmered. It swirled with colors we had no names for. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. It was an open door, and like fools, we flew right through it. We were explorers, after all. What else were we supposed to do? The transition was not violent. It was not a jolt or a flash. It was a feeling of falling sideways, of turning inside out for just a moment. Then the stars on the other side snapped into view. They were wrong. Every last one of them was wrong. We were somewhere else, somewhere new. Then we saw them, drifting in the silent void, the ships of the First Fleet, the pioneers who vanished a century ago. They were not wreckage. They were pristine. Their lights were cold. Their hulls showed no signs of battle. They were ghost ships, preserved in this strange, star-dusted tomb. We hailed them. Our transmission signals washed over their hulls. We received nothing back, not even an automated reply. Just a profound, echoing silence. A silence that spoke of an ending. A story we had just stumbled into. Their final chapter was unwritten, and their stories called to us for an answer. We scanned the lead vessel, the Odyssey. Its name was still proud on the bow. Life support readings were 0. Engine signatures were flat. But something else was active. A faint energy source pulsed from its bridge. A beacon, a breadcrumb. It was the only thing moving in this graveyard of heroes. We knew we had to follow it. We approached the Odyssey with caution. Our ship felt like a trespasser, a loud guest in a silent house. The energy pulse grew stronger. It resonated with our own systems. It was a handshake across a century of loss. It was an invitation to understand what happened, to see what they had seen. On our main view screen, the pulse resolved. It was not a distress call. It was a projection, a map. It bloomed in the void ahead of us, a 3-dimensional chart of this unknown space. It was made of soft, flowing light, constellations we had never dreamed of, nebulae that defied our understanding of star science. The lines of the map pulsed with purpose. They were not static routes. They were currents, rivers of space-time flowing between worlds. Some flowed gently, others raged like cosmic rapids. This was not a map of places. It was a map of paths, and it was showing us the way to whatever the First Fleet had found. We overlaid our own charts. There was no match, not a single star, not one familiar landmark. It felt like we had opened a door in our home and found the world on the other side was not ours. We were truly, completely lost. Or maybe we were finally found. The map highlighted a single destination, a point where multiple currents converged, a nexus. The light there was brighter, more intense. It was drawing us in, Our captain gave the order. We engaged our engines, and we followed the Ghost Fleet's final path into the heart of the unknown. Our ship sailed on those impossible currents. The journey felt smoother than normal travel. We were not pushing through space. We were flowing with it. The starborn map updated in real time. It showed us safe passage. It guided us away from unseen dangers. Dangers we could not even comprehend. After days of travel, we felt a change. The smooth flow began to falter. The ship began to shudder. Ahead of us, the void was no longer flat. It rippled. It warped like a reflection on a disturbed sea. It was the destination from the map. The nexus. The rift's edge. The fabric of reality looked thin here. Stretched to its breaking point, colors bled from the edges of the distortion. Light bent in ways that made our eyes ache. Our ship's computer could not process it. It kept trying to correct the view, trying to make it obey the laws of physics we knew. It failed every time. We felt a pull. It was not gravity. It was something deeper. A strange sort of longing emanated from the rift. A promise of secrets, a whisper of knowledge. It felt like standing at the shore of a vast ocean, knowing that just beyond the waves, a new world waited. We cut our main engines, letting the current carry us closer. The silence here was different. It was not empty. It was full of anticipation, a held breath on a cosmic scale. We were on the doorstep of a mystery. The first fleet had come this far. Their ghosts were here with us. Their silence urged us on. We had to know what was on the other side. The ship began to protest. Alarms we had never heard before chimed softly. Our engine core started to hum a new song, a different frequency, a resonating harmony with the rift. It was a sound of immense, forgotten power, a sleeping giant stirring in its sleep. Our chief engineer was baffled. The core was operating far beyond its known limits. Yet it was stable. It was not generating more heat. It was just creating more sound. A deep, rhythmic thrumming. The metal heart of our vessel was beating faster. It was excited. Or maybe it was afraid. The sound was not just in our engines. We heard it from outside too. Faint echoes in the void. Whispers from the ghost ships around us. Their dead engines were singing the same tune, a chorus of machines calling out to their creator, or to whatever lay beyond the shimmering curtain of the rift. It was a symphony of forgotten power, a song that hinted at the true nature of this place. The technology here operated on principles we were just beginning to glimpse. The first fleet had not just found a new place. They had found a new way to exist, and that knowledge had cost them everything. We pushed forward into the heart of the song. Then we saw them, 2 of them, one on each side of the rift. They were colossal, larger than any ship we had ever built. They were not made of metal or stone. They seemed carved from darkness itself. Solid shapes that blotted out the warped stars behind them. They glided through the abyss with an ancient grace. They were guardians. We knew it instantly. Their forms were sleek, yet impossibly complex, covered in geometric patterns that shifted and flowed. As they moved, they did not disturb the space around them. Space itself seemed to move for them, making way for its masters. We were a tiny boat floating between 2 living mountains. They had eyes, or what we perceived as eyes. 2 points of intense cold light on each form. They fixed on our ship. They were not hostile, not curious, just watching. They were waiting. They wanted to see our intent, to judge if we were worthy of passage. It was a test, and we did not even know the question. We held our position. We did not power weapons. We did not try to run. What would be the point? Running from them would be like a snail trying to outrun the tide. We simply floated. We opened a channel. We broadcast a simple message of peace, a greeting from one new race to an older one. We hoped it was enough. The Guardians did not respond. They just continued their slow, silent patrol. Their presence was overwhelming. We felt like children who had wandered into a sacred place, a place where we did not belong. But the star-born map had led us here. The first fleet had passed this way. There had to be a way through. Then we noticed something on the Guardian to our left. A section of its dark hull began to glow. Faint symbols flickered to life. They formed a complex pattern, a code, a broken cipher. It was not a message for us. It was a lock, and we needed to find the key. The light from the symbols pulsed gently. The wall of symbols was immense. It covered a surface easily a kilometer long. The characters were alien, unlike anything in our databases. They shifted. They reformed. They danced in a slow, hypnotic rhythm. This was not a simple password. This was a living language, and it was broken. Our ship's AI, designation Echo, got to work. It began analyzing the patterns, comparing them to the energy signatures from the rift. From our own humming engines. Echo was a good AI. The best we had. But this was like asking a child to translate a forgotten poem. It had no context, no frame of reference. Echo tried a few basic approaches: frequency matching, pattern recognition, mathematical deconstruction. The cipher did not respond. The symbols continued their silent, mocking dance. The Guardians remained impassive. We were missing a piece of the puzzle, the most important piece. The engineer had an idea. It was a wild one. He suggested our humming engine was not just a reaction, it was a conversation. Our ship was trying to speak the language of this place. The song was our key. We just had to tune it correctly. It sounded like nonsense. But we had run out of sensible options. We began to adjust our engine's resonance. We used the broken cipher as a guide. We tried to match our ship's hum to the flickering pulse of the symbols. The process was slow, delicate. One wrong frequency and we might overload our core. Or worse, annoy the giant space mountains watching us. For hours, nothing happened. Then, a single symbol on the Guardian's hull locked into place. It stopped shifting. It shone with a steady, bright light. We had found a word, a single correct note in an impossible song. A surge of hope went through the bridge. We were not just guessing anymore. We were communicating. One by one, we found the right frequencies. We tuned our engine's song. We matched the rhythm of the ancient machine language. More symbols locked into place. The broken cipher began to mend itself. The wall of light grew brighter, more stable. The Guardians watched, their cold eyes betraying nothing. We were close. With a final adjustment, the last symbol clicked into place. The entire wall of light flashed once. A brilliant, silent detonation of understanding. The cipher was complete. The Guardians responded. They did not move their massive bodies. They did not speak. They acted. And the universe around us broke. Light and shadow converged. The two Guardians projected beams of pure energy. One was the color of a newborn star. The other was the absolute black of the void. They met in the center of the rift. There was no sound, no explosion, just a sudden, violent clash of fundamental forces, a moment where existence itself was canceled out. The clash reshaped the very stars. The rippling curtain of the rift tore open, not into a tunnel, but into a new horizon, a plane of existence, where our laws did not apply. The background of space twisted into impossible shapes. We saw the birth and death of galaxies in an instant. Time and space became suggestions, not rules. Our ship was thrown back, not by a shock wave, by the pure force of reality reasserting itself. We were caught in the wake of creation. Every system on our ship screamed, every crew member held on. We were surfing a wave of pure change. This was the passage the First Fleet had taken. No wonder they never came back. When the chaos settled, the view was different. The Guardians were gone. The rift was gone. We were floating in a space between spaces, a corridor of fractured light. The clash of horizons had created a path, a temporary bridge, and at the far end of it, something glowed, something ancient and powerful. We had passed the test. The Guardians had opened the way, but the passage felt unstable. The walls of this corridor shimmered. They threatened to collapse. We had to move. We pushed our newly tuned engines to their limit. They sang their powerful new song, and we flew down the throat of the new horizon. The corridor was not empty. It was filled with echoes, voices, images. They swirled around us like ghosts in a storm. They were the last moments of the First Fleet, the data from their ship logs, their final, desperate transmissions. They had all been stored here, trapped in this echo chamber. We heard their captain. His voice was filled with awe and terror. He spoke of the rift's core, of a power to remake the universe. He spoke of a choice, a terrible, impossible choice. The echoes showed us their faces. We saw their hope turn to fear, their unity fracture into disagreement. The voices were not just human. Older whispers slithered through the data stream. Voices from ages past, the builders of the gate, the keepers of the rift. They spoke of balance, of doors that should never be opened, of a power that required a terrible sacrifice to control. Their stories became our stories. Their fate was now bound to ours. We were not just observers. The echoes seeped into our ship, into our minds. We felt their confusion, their desperation. We understood the weight of the burden they had faced. The First Fleet had not been destroyed by an enemy. They had been destroyed by a choice, and we were flying toward that very same choice. The echo chamber was a warning. The corridor of light ended abruptly. We emerged into a vast, open space, a bubble of calm at the heart of the storm. The chaos of the horizon was gone. Here, there was only a profound stillness. And in the center of this cosmic cathedral, it hovered. The rift's core. It was a perfect sphere of glowing white energy. It hummed with a power that made our own engines seem like toys. It was not burning. It was not radiating heat. It was just there. A point of pure potential. The source of the rift. The heart of this entire impossible place. It was the most beautiful thing we had ever seen. The sphere pulsed with a soft, gentle rhythm, a cosmic heartbeat. The song it sang was alluring. It promised answers to every question. It offered the power to control our own destiny, to protect humanity from any threat, to become as gods. All we had to do was reach out. Just touch it. Our ship's AI, Echo, went frantic. It threw warning after warning onto the main screen. Proximity alert, ontological hazard, existential threat. Echo's synthesized voice was strained. It advised immediate withdrawal. It insisted that touching the core would unravel our very existence. It was probably right. But we were so close. Then, a new signal cut through the core's siren song. It was faint, but it was clear. A simple, repeating pulse. A human distress beacon. It was not an echo from the past. It was live. It was real. And it was coming from a small, dark object on the far side of the core. a haven, a sanctuary. We focused our sensors on the source. It was a ship, one of the vessels from the First Fleet, the Star Seeker. It was nestled in the shadow of a large floating rock. Its beacon was a tiny flicker of hope in this overwhelming space. They had survived. Some of them had survived. They were calling for help. The beacon was a guide, a path away from the tempting glow of the core. It was steady. It was hopeful. It offered a chance at survival. A return to something we understood. The Star Seeker had resisted the core's call. They had found a hiding place, a hidden haven in the eye of the storm. We now understood the First Fleet's dilemma, the choice that had torn them apart. Go to the core and seize its power, or retreat to the beacon and seek safety. It was the ultimate question. Do we risk everything for godhood? Or do we cling to our humanity? The lost beacon gave us a third option, an option for survival. As we considered our path, a tremor ran through this pocket of reality. The walls of the chamber flickered. The stable space around us began to fracture. The breach was not contained. The clash of horizons had not just opened a path for us. It had weakened the walls of this dimension. The void was beginning to spill in. Cracks of pure nothingness spread across our view. Through them, we saw the raw, untamed chaos of the space between spaces. Currents of impossible energy began to leak into the core's chamber. The calm was broken. The sanctuary was becoming a trap. We had to make a decision, and we had to make it now. The breach was an opportunity, a moment of pure flux. We could seize the currents leaking in, use them to amplify our engines, to make a jump to a place of our choosing. Or we could use the core's power to seal the breach, to contain the chaos. The choice was not just about our own fate anymore. It was about everyone's. The core pulsed faster. It seemed to react to the breach. It drew in the chaotic energy. Its glow intensified. It was offering us the power to control the storm. The beacon on the Star Seeker began to flicker. The ship was being battered by the leaking currents. Its haven was failing. We were out of time. Our choice would define the future. Two paths diverged before us. Beneath the light of the glowing, dying core, the star of this pocket dimension. One path led to the Star Seeker, to our own kind, to survival and a long journey home. The other path led to the core, to ultimate power, to the chance to become masters of the void. If we went for the beacon, we might save the survivors. But we would abandon the core. The breach would likely consume this place, and the chaos might spill out into our own universe. The open door would never be closed. If we chose the core, we might save everyone, but we would sacrifice our own humanity. We would become something else, something like the Guardians. Our captain stood on the bridge, the weight of two universes on his shoulders. The crew was silent. Every one of us understood the choice. We had come seeking knowledge. We had found a terrible responsibility. Our decision would not just be a footnote in a history book. It would be the final word. It would echo forever. Then, as the captain opened his mouth to give the order, a new presence filled the bridge. It was not a sound. It was a thought, a voice that bloomed inside our minds. It was ancient. It was calm. It was the voice of the Guardians, the Elders. They had returned, or perhaps they had never left. Their voices rose in our minds, not as words, but as pure understanding. They offered counsel, and they offered a warning. They explained the nature of the core. It was not a weapon. It was not a prize. It was a seed for a new universe. And its guardians were chosen, not by conquest, but by sacrifice. The elders showed us the past. They showed us countless races who had faced this same choice. Those who chose power were consumed by it. They became monsters who ravaged their own realities. Those who chose survival doomed others. They fled, leaving the door open for the chaos to spread. There was no easy answer, no right path. They were not here to judge us. They were here to bear witness, to record our choice, to see what humanity would add to the great cosmic story. Their counsel was a final test. They gave us the full weight of the truth. Then they fell silent, waiting for our decision, a decision that would seal our fate and so many others. We made our choice. We did not fly toward the beacon. We did not fly toward the core. We turned our ship to face the breach itself. We positioned our vessel in the largest crack. Our engineer rerouted all power to our engines, not to the drive, to the resonance core. We were going to sing one final song. We broadcast our plan to the Starseeker. We told them to prepare for a shockwave. Then we began to tune our engines. We sang the song the Guardians had taught us, the language of the cipher. But we added our own verse, a human melody of hope and sacrifice, a song of a third option. The cosmos awakened to our actions. Our ship became a focusing lens. Our engine's song turned the chaotic energy of the breach inward. We did not try to seize the core's power. We did not try to run. We chose to become the new lock on the broken door. We chose to become the Guardians. A new chapter was beginning for all. The energy was immense. Our ship screamed as it channeled the void. On the bridge, light and shadow danced. We felt our physical forms begin to fade. We were becoming one with the ship, one with the song. A new dawn was breaking. Not a dawn of light, but a dawn of purpose. And we were its heralds, forever.